Hi all, and welcome to episode 5 of the Leading Safely podcast. This episode, and a few more after this one, are about the importance of people. Obviously, this is an extremely general topic, so I'm going to break it down into a few subtopics. Today's subtopic is integrity. For me, as a safety professional and as an effective safety leader, integrity is everything. Integrity meaning the quality of being honest and having strong principles to do what is right and reject which is wrong, regardless of the consequences that are attached to those decisions. For me, this is something I have prided myself in my entire career and something I respect in those around me. For those of you who have stalked me on LinkedIn, you will have seen that whilst I have a variety of experience, a lot of the roles that I've been in have been short stints. None longer than around a year and a half in length. There are a couple of reasons for this. However, the majority comes down to this. I will not compromise on my own personal values when it comes to safety. And I'm going to provide you with a recent example, one that led me to where I am in my career today. Just over 2 and a bit years ago, I'd just become pregnant with our son George, and my husband and I decided we were making the move back to Brisbane to be with our family and our support networks. I'd been working for what used to be the biggest gold mine in the Southern Hemisphere and had actually thoroughly enjoyed my time there. I had a great manager and a great work environment, and safety was most definitely a value they wanted to instill at all levels of the organisation. I'd only been with them for 8 months when we made that call to come home to Brisbane. Rather than start applying for roles on Seek, I decided to post on LinkedIn that I was looking for a Brisbane-based role. Within a week or so of posting, I received a phone call from a hiring manager of an engineering and fabrication business in Brisbane. The business had grown substantially and they wanted to grow even further by gaining ISO accreditation so that they could tender for work with the bigger players of the industry. They were after a HSE advisor to come in and basically develop their safety health management system to gain that ISO accreditation, for which the audit would be occurring within 3 months of commencing in the role. The office would be close to home, the money was decent, the people looked and sounded great, and I thought it was perfect with my big belly starting to make me feel like a blimp. So, we made the move back to Brisbane and I took the role I just told you about. Initially, everything was great. They were super flexible with my work, so I was able to continue right through the birth of my son, and with some hard work and dedication, the system I developed got the business over the line for their ISO accreditation. The people on the ground were great, open to change and willing to listen when it came to preventing injuries, identifying risks, and all the other key things that mattered. About 12 months into the role though, the director, founder of the company, decided that he was going to bring in a general manager to run the show for him. The GM would make all operational decisions and he would move more into an overseeing type role. Unfortunately, the GM operations manager had a different direction for the business than the trajectory it currently sat on. And from everything he said and did in his first few weeks, I could just tell that health and safety was going to become a tick box exercise. Slowly, I could see all of the hard work I had done to build rapport with the frontline employees starting to dwindle because I would promise what they would be missing, including PPE to do their job safely, and that PPE would not arrive. I would escalate hazards and things that needed fixing in the workshop, and it would take weeks, sometimes even months, for those things to get done. The business did continue to grow though, thanks to this new GM, and we ended up moving into a larger workspace, one which contained a gantry crane that ran the length of the workshop. The problem was the crane had not been serviced for close to 12 years. None of its components had been certified as safe to use, and to top it off, other than our workshop supervisor, no one else was a qualified rigger or dogger. I immediately raised all of these issues with the GM and was told that we needed the crane to be operational ASAP as we had won some major jobs, and to see what I could do. So, I found some details for certifiers to come in and check out the crane and its components to let us know if there was anything that needed to be fixed. I also found a local RTO that could provide the rigging and dogging training to our nominated personnel whenever we were ready. I sent all of those details through the GM, but I started to get the feeling, and from what I was seeing around me, I could already tell my recommendations were going to fall on deaf ears. About 2 weeks after I'd sent the emails with the info on training and having the crane serviced, I got to work, walked into the workshop, and I see the crane being used to carry a 2.5 tonne steel component. The crane was being operated by the 2IC's 16-year-old son, who would come in and do odd jobs for us over the school holidays. 16 years old, with no trade experience whatsoever. There was no exclusion zone set up, no hard hats being worn, nothing. Everyone is just going about their work whilst the suspended load is being passed above their work area by a 16-year-old with zero qualifications. The kid didn't even have a learner's permit. Now, I'm Italian and I'm a fiery, passionate person, especially when it comes to health and safety. My heart immediately started to get its beat on. I'm angry, but I'm also really upset as well because I'd worked with the workshop supervisor to get him to a point on his safety journey where he'd become really proactive and would take steps to ensure risks had been assessed. Or if he was unsure, would actually phone me and say, "Hey Georgina, what do I do here?" So I felt a little bit left down as well. I approached the kid and I had a conversation with him about what he was doing, what he thinks the risks are, how he might get hurt, etc. He listens, but then he tells me that his dad told him to do it. So in my head, I let off the workshop supervisor just slightly, and then I'm on a mission to find his dad, the 2IC. My heart is beating with adrenaline. I find the 2IC in his office and I say, "Hey mate, I just saw Bobby out there operating the gantry crane, and he mentioned that you asked him to do it." His response was, "Yeah, I did. It's a quick job, G. We need that part moved to the other end of the workshop for loading today." I lost my stuff. I asked if he had any idea what could go wrong using such a dangerous bit of equipment that had not been certified safe to use. He basically said the risk was minimal because of the duration of the job. I asked what would he do if something happened to his son and the load came down on top of him, and the response was, "I would laugh." That comment made me absolutely lose my stuff. I became furious, and when I become angry, I actually become physically upset. So I'm starting to tear up and I'm saying there was no way you would be okay if your son was seriously injured or killed today. You wouldn't laugh, you would sue the company. And he's saying back to me, "No G, you're making this bigger than it actually needs to be." Then the workshop supervisor comes in and I question him with, "Are you okay with this happening in your workshop?" He goes to respond and then stops as if he's in fear of saying anything. I shake my head at him and tell him I'm completely disappointed with his behaviour. I then take my blubbering self in to see the general manager. I'm absolutely beside myself with anger. He asks me what I'm upset about and I tell him. Well, I blubber to him. "Do you understand what can happen if Bobby is injured or worse, killed while using that crane? You go to jail. The business is done. Are you okay with that?" And he looks at me and he says, "Actually, G, I am okay with that. I'm okay with that risk." My response was, "Yeah, well, I'm not." I then walked out of his office, packed my bag, and I went home for the day. I then typed out a resignation and I sent it in. When people asked why I left that business, my answer is because my personal values no longer aligned with those of the business. The people who are part of your organisation have the ability to make or break it, and this is even more so for those at the upper end of the organisation. After I left, I had conversations with the workshop supervisor, who was a great guy, but at that point choked when faced with speaking up for such a safety critical concern. I told him that I had expected more, but understood his position in that precise moment in time. I recently saw a sign that said, "Asking me to overlook a simple safety violation would be asking me to compromise my entire attitude towards the value of your life." And this is 100% true for me. For me, as a safety professional, there is a line. And once that line has been crossed, there is no turning back. Every safety professional should have a line and know where that line starts and finishes. They should also stand by that line. You cannot expect or demand that those at the top of your organisation or even the front line do better or be better if you yourself would walk past or allow something that has the potential to injure or even worse, kill someone. Of course, I 100% understand that the line will be different for each of you, and sometimes that line may flex a little. As a safety leader, you should ask yourself some critical self-reflection questions, and this is good to do regardless of where you are within your career. Those questions should be: 1. What is my view on health and safety? 2. What are my personal values when it comes to health and safety? And 3. Which of those values am I willing to compromise on, if any, if push came to shove? Once you have determined those answers to those questions, the key is then to stick by the answers. If you are known for your integrity, you will gain trust and respect from the people around you, including management and frontline employees. Remember though, that having the courage to say no is an important skill to learn. So how do you go about demonstrating integrity? For me, it's about building trust and respectful relationships. Trust and respect are the ingredients of a healthy, positive health and safety workplace culture. Approach all employees, regardless of how non-compliant, disgruntled, disrespectful they are, with polite communication. Respect their thoughts and ideas, and continuously work on building relationships which demonstrate that you are a team player. Showing them that you are a team player helps to build trust and shows other people that they can rely on you. They know if they come to you with a health and safety issue, you will escalate it and action it accordingly. Next, for me, it's about communicating openly and honestly. Open and honest communication is the way to ensure that people know exactly what is going on around them, where everybody stands, and the best way forward. If you see a worker doing something completely unsafe, then you need to have the courage to address that behaviour in an open and honest manner. Sometimes sugarcoating only prolongs the inevitable. Open and honest communication should be occurring at all levels of an organisation. So regardless of your job title, I would challenge you to speak your truth at all times when it comes to health and safety matters. I'm a strong believer that an effective safety leader should play devil's advocate and challenge the status quo openly and honestly for positive change to occur. Next, following company policies and procedures. Policies and procedures are designed to guide you as to the best practice. If you choose not to follow them, or if you choose to do shortcuts or workarounds, you are giving employees a free pass to do the same. In a previous episode, we spoke about the importance of leading by example, so we've already covered this in quite depth. Next, I think it's about demonstrating responsible behaviour, and that means ensuring that there's no reason for anyone to ever question your conduct by demonstrating ethical and moral behaviour at all times. This includes avoiding using the company's equipment or resources for personal use, like taking extra sets of safety glasses for your fishing trips, as well as striving to complete your tasks before deadlines and showing enthusiasm and commitment to health and safety in general. Following on from that, working diligently. This is a very powerful way of demonstrating integrity as it shows that you're responsible for your work time. Demonstrate dedication to the cause. Focus on your health and safety responsibilities and strive to not only succeed, but to perform at the highest level possible. Admit to and learn from your mistakes or your knowledge gaps. When it comes to health and safety, you are most definitely going to make mistakes, or you're not going to know the answers to questions. If you've made a mistake, you should admit the mistake without putting the blame on someone else. This shows that you're responsible enough to own up to your mistakes and are willing to correct and learn from them. If you're a manager or someone in charge of a team, this means taking the blame yourself and not letting your team members take the responsibility. If you do not know the answer to a question, Tell the person that you do not know. However, you're going to go and identify the correct answer and then come back and provide it to them. Obviously, you'll then need to follow up with the correct answer, so please don't forget that part. That shows employees and managers and everyone else that you aren't a know-it-all, but you can also identify your own weaknesses. Finally, stand up for your beliefs. This is about standing up for what you believe in, and it's the right way of doing things, even if everyone else is doing something different. Be prepared to walk away from a conversation, a task, a person, or even a job, if need be. That engineering and fabrication organisation, which I told you about in the very beginning of this episode, was not the first organisation I had left due to my personal health and safety values not aligning with those of the business. Hopefully though, it was my last. I'm going to keep this episode short and sharp, so I'm going to finish it here. However, the topic of the importance of people will continue for a few more episodes. Plus, stay tuned for those bonus episodes coming soon with some really interesting guest speakers. Please also don't forget that if you have an issue or topic you would like discussed, feel free to comment or contact me directly via LinkedIn, or alternatively, you can email me at leadingsafely@outlook.com. That's leadingsafely@outlook.com. Thanks again for joining in. Until next time, stay safe.